and welcome to Escaping Kasterborous. My name is Rich and I'm joined by Amy.
Hi.
And together over the next goodness knows how many weeks we are going to be rewatching, reminiscing and reviewing the entirety of Doctor Who from 2005 to right now, which is just after Series 12 has aired. And today is episode number 2.
Woo.
Of Escaping Kasterborous. Thank you all who've watched and or listened to the first episode of this podcast ever. Thank you all for the tweets and the lovely messages that you've had and the comments on the video version as well. It's much appreciated and we're glad you were enjoying it. But now we are on to literally episode 2 of our podcast and episode 2 of Doctor Who, which is The End of the World, aired on April the 2nd, 2005. It was the first New Who episode set in the future, because obviously Rose is set present day. And fun fact, apparently the majority of the series budget was blown on the CGI in this episode.
Oh, that's that's interesting.
Which is saying something when you actually look at the CGI, because it's not all that good. But then again, it's 2005, and TV CGI was never given the time of day. Like it somewhat is now, and even getting CGI in movies in 2005 was a hell of a lot more expensive than it is today, or at least I think it is.
I think it's part of the charm, though.
I think it is. not like Series 1 of Once Upon a Time CGI. Now that...
Oh, no, that's just like...
ghastly.
That's just bad.
So, if you're watching Doctor Who for the first time, welcome to the end of the world. Everyone dies. Yay. If you're rewatching it like us, then... I hope you've been back through and had some laughs and seen some bits and pieces you might not have spotted before, or, as we talked about last week, things that you can look at in a different light. Now you know what happens over the course of the next couple of series. And End of the World is the first episode of the series that really starts to open things up a bit more. There were multiple things that were discussed in this episode I didn't really remember being discussed this early on. Such as who the Doctor is, and things about the TARDIS, which we will get to. This episode opens with a little rundown as to what happened the week before, and this is the only time this really happens in Doctor Who in Series 1. Apart from two-parters, really, with it previously. But this kind of runs over the events of the first episode and then leads straight into when Rose runs into the TARDIS at the end of the first episode.
It's such a beautiful transition between the end of the last episode and the start of the next one. And it just sort of, like, starts and you sort of think that that's going to be, like, the point where they start the credits or, like, whatever. But it literally is just, like, runs onto the TARDIS. Oh, hey, where do you want to go? Like,
they get the cold open of that story out of the way before they go to the titles, rather than just doing a previously and then going straight into the title sequence. So yeah, Rose has just dumped Mickey by the bins in London.
Bye!
And goes into the TARDIS, and Eccleston's there. You know, he's got this glass ball in his hand and he's like, so then, Rose Tyler, where do you want to go? And this sequence I think is really good because you don't see it that often in Doctor Who, especially not in the new series, or even not really in Moffat's era. There might be some moments when we do see it a bit more, but we actually get to see how the TARDIS actually works, because this is the longest time we've spent in the new TARDIS. Like, in the first episode, you only see it, for once?
Maybe 30 seconds collectively.
Yeah. So we actually get a little bit of time in this new TARDIS, which we discussed last week, that we both absolutely adore.
It's beautiful.
So Eccleston's there saying, you know, where do you want to go, backwards or forwards? Rose says forwards, and he says, right, we'll go forward 100 years, then 1,000 years, and then they'll go forward 5 billion years. But you get to see him use the TARDIS. Like, he puts the ball back on there. I've always been wondered whether that ball that he holds, when he puts it down on the panel, whether he's putting it down on something to make it work. Like, whether you take this ball, you put it on this bit of the console, it goes forwards, this bit it goes backwards.
Kind of like how keys work in a car.
Sort of, like, that's kind of how I always saw that. But, you know, flicks a couple of switches and then he has this wheel that uses that really goofy like squeaky wheel sound. And that's something that I always thought about Series 1, that they use so many stock sounds that sound really strange. Like, we'll get to this in Boomtown, which is episode 10 or 11, episode 11 of the series, where they use these like really kind of childish sound effects for certain things.
I love it, though. It's
we'll
part
get,
of the charm.
Oh, yeah, it's part of the charm. We'll get to that. But, like, seeing Eccleston use the TARDIS, like, properly, he's got the pump that he's in the side of the TARDIS console.
That's, at one point, he's literally looking Rose dead in the eye, and he's just going, It's like, are you okay?
And it reminds me of apparently how William Hartnell was back in the original series, where he had mapped out his TARDIS console that certain things did certain things, like certain buttons and switches did specific things. So I think it was done in Adventure in Space and Time, when I'm guessing it's another character uses the console. And he says, press the button to open the doors, and they go over, they just press a random button. He's like, no, it's not that button, it's this button. Even though it doesn't do anything, he mapped out his TARDIS in full to make it look like he actually knows what he's doing. He's not just pressing random buttons like somebody typing on a keyboard in a fake manner.
Yeah, in a film, it's just
in a
like...
film or a TV show. And I was saying, making noise there.
I was trying to do the keyboard thing.
But you made noise. You meant to, like, really lightly rest your fingers, and like when you see the cutaways to people in the news just look like you're working, and they're just there, like, lightly touching the keys, and it's blatantly obvious they're not pressing them. But Eccleston does this whole thing where you see him use the TARDIS. He even rings the bell at the end.
Oh, I love that bell.
It's like, it's completely over the top. He's showing off so much. Because it's something that we see Eccleston do. He's a show off because he's impressing this hot girl he's picked up.
I mean...
and it's the first friend he's made since the Time War, which does actually get it doesn't get name dropped in this episode. He mentions a war.
He mention a war.
He doesn't call it the Time War yet, but they end up going forward in time to Platform 1, where they watch the end of the world happen. The sun expands, it engulfs the Earth, and everybody dies, even though the world's empty. But Earth death
stuff
in 30 minutes and so on.
I think it's really cool, though, also just going slightly back a stage, is the fact that he actually asks Rose where he wants to go. I think it's like one of the only times where you ever kind of see the Doctor actually say, like, hey, where do you want to go? Like, I know that maybe they probably do in a later series, but like most of the time you just kind of open the episode and they're already where they want to be. And they're like, it's kind of that from start to finish that I think is the really key point to the first series, is you don't, like, Russell made a point of sort of explaining everything. So like this point for us is kind of like, oh, we can go anywhere. Oh, I wonder where they're going to go. And that's that kind of like, once again, that kind of audience, it like pulling the audience in sort of thing.
Well, you say about him not necessarily giving the companion the option to choose where to go, but technically he does that again in this series when Rose asked to go and see the day her dad died.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Which we'll get to in episode 7? Is it after Dalek or is it after Empty Child?
I
want to say it's after Dalek. I'm not entirely sure.
You're the bird.
But yeah, so they go forward in time and they end up here. And something you said last week about how Rose just kind of goes along with it. Like, you see characters see the Earth for the first time. It happens multiple times in Doctor Who in the new series. Where they see Earth from space and they're all completely overwhelmed. It's not that Rose doesn't give a crap. It's more that she's just like, yeah, I kind of expected to see this. We're on a space station. I'm going to see the Earth. But she doesn't sort of like hyperventilate or pass out or anything like we just kind of see in the future of the series. She's just kind of like, yeah, whatever.
She's just kind of stood there like, it's the Earth. I do believe I've seen this on TV a few times. It looks exactly the same.
She's seen plastic things come to life. This is more normal.
This is just Earth.
than that. And it takes her a bit of time to come to terms with it. We actually see Rose for the first time kind of freak out a bit about her surroundings, because obviously they go to Platform 1, which is like an observation deck for rich people to watch the Earth die for fun. Because,
why not?
It's a momentous occasion. A planet's going to die. Screw it. We've got the shields to keep us safe from the sun. Let's go watch. And it's a proper billionaires thing. I mean, Donald Trump's brain in a jar will be there when it actually happens, because I won't be surprised if he try and keeps himself alive up until then. King of the world. The last human.
This is not a political podcast. Let's move on.
That's true, yeah. But when they end up in the main room, they meet the steward, who's this bloke who's blue.
I love that bit. Just, he's blue. Yeah, he is. Okay. Just like standard.
As you were saying, Rose last week was like, yeah, screw it. I can get behind this. It's fine. It's normal stuff. And when the steward starts to introduce the rest of these creatures, one of which is the face of Bo, which we will get to in the future. But you have like the Mox of Balhoum, you have the Forest of Cheem, you have the adherents of the repeated meme, you have the
do you think Russell T Davies knew that memes were going to be like massive?
Well, I think
that's an accident.
Meme is a pre-existing term.
Well,
I think it was just used for that. But I remember like going back and watching that and thinking, meme. Why did I not like? I never. Obviously, it's weird to now hear that word and not
think of internet
just
context.
It being like a weird word used back in the day, because obviously back in 2005 memes weren't really a big thing. Like I don't even think I had internet in my bedroom or any access to the internet without going on my parents' computer back then.
Dial up.
Oh god, I remember getting Wi-Fi in my bedroom for the first time, and the first website I went on was the Doctor Who website.
You're such a nerd.
It was my homepage. Give me a break. I love that old Doctor Who website. I can remember it very, very vividly. I might have to go on like the Wayback Machine to see if there's a good like capture of it from back in 2005. But that was back when, obviously, before they had all of the before they had iPlayer and YouTube and stuff like that. They uploaded like maybe 1 or 2 clips and sound effects from each of the episodes, and they put up the next time trailers on the BBC website. But the only way you could watch the next time trailers, you had to download Real Player.
Oh, Real Player!
You needed Real Player to do that. And I remember my dad.
Technology come a long way?
That's a big throwback. I don't even know whether Real Player is still going. I just remember
was that the cone? No, that's
VLC is the cone. No, Real Player was just like I think it was like a speech bubble with an R in it. And I remember that my dad had it on his PC, and one of the visualizations you had for playing like MP3s was a bunch of sheep in a field that would like bop along to the song. So Real Player back in 2005 had beaten Tom Scott to Beat Beep I'm a Sheep.
Beep I'm a Sheep.
So, but that was back in the Real Player. If you're listening and you remember watching like 240p next time trailers on the BBC website using Real Player, let me know, because I remember downloading the next time trailer for Parting of the Ways and watching it over and over again because it had Daleks in it.
Oh my god!
I was so excited. But we're not talking about Daleks. We're talking about End of the World.
Yes, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah. So all these aliens come in. They're all like granting gifts, and the Mox of Balhoun spits in Rose's face, and the Doctor flirts with a tree with tits, and the adherents of the repeated meme give people silver balls. Sounds like a meme in itself. And Rose kind of gets overwhelmed and she runs away. And yeah, this is the first time that she properly thinks, oh god, I've run away with a stranger. And she kind of goes sits in a room and looking over the earth and
No, you've missed the fabulous scene with...
Sorry, Cassandra comes in.
Well, yeah, but also you've missed the scene with Raffaello.
Well, yeah, I mean, Cassandra's first. How did I skip Cassandra? So, Cassandra, played by the wonderful Zoe Wanamaker.
Oh, fabulous.
Comes trundling in. Madam Hooch, if you're needing a reference point, if you're not sure who's... I don't even know how many things I've seen Zoe Wanamaker in, to be honest.
Like, a few. Was she in My Hero?
I don't even know what that is.
What? What's
My Hero?
God, My Hero's amazing. It's a comedy show with... Oh, God... it's just, I don't know the names of the actors, but just fantastic.
I do know she did comedy, but she plays Lady Cassandra O'Brien Delta 17. Don't ask me why I remember that.
Because you're a nerd.
I'm a nerd who, as Rose very eloquently puts it, a bitchy trampoline. Is the last human in existence, inverted commas, because she's had 708.
She said 708, soon to be 709.
708 operations. Her 709th is next week. She's getting her blood bleached. And she's like literally this stretched skin woman on a frame with her 2 scientist boys next to her.
Moisturize me.
And she's the best thing about her is like, Zoe Wanamaker plays her so brilliantly, and she's also so full of shit.
Yeah.
Like, when she, obviously all these guests are granting gifts, and she comes in with this twisted approach to Earth history, which is obviously funny for us who know the stuff she's on about. So she brings in an ostrich egg, and it's like, it had a wingspan of 50 feet and blew fire from its nostrils. And we're like,
no, that's a dragon.
It's an ostrich. Sure. And then she brings a jukebox in and says, this is what they called an iPod. And like, bear in mind the iPod was like cutting edge, brand new technology back in 2005. This is obviously there are a couple of moments in Rose where things are aged. Like Rose going on Mickey's computer, going on search-wise.net.
Oh my god, that huge grey box computer that we all had.
And she comes in with the jukebox and she plays
Tainted Love.
Music from Earth's most famous composers, and it's Tainted Love, and you get this wonderful gif of Eccleston dancing away to himself. He's having a great time, just milling about with aliens. He's there thinking, nothing's going to go wrong here. We're just going to see this. And Rose runs off, and she's taken aback by the aliens. Because even though she's seen plastic creatures and the Nestine consciousness, this is like going from 0 to 100. She's seeing so many different species all at the same time.
But I also think because when she saw the Nestine consciousness, it was just kind of like in the middle of it all. Like they were already in the thick of it. They were already trying to save everything. Like you're just kind of running with the adrenaline at that point. Whereas at this point, you've gone to the year 5 billion, what was it, 5.5 / Apple / something.
/26.
And you just kind of stood there surrounded by all these aliens. And this is like the moment when you're not really running about, you're not really doing anything. And you've just got time to kind of stand there and look around and go, holy crap, what the hell have I done?
Yeah, this is just normality for everything. Like, this is the universe continuing. Because, yeah, this is 5 billion years in the future, and as Rose does very sort of morbidly mention, everyone's dead. My mum's dead. I'm dead. Like, the Earth is empty, there's no one left. And, you know, that's it. And the universe continues. And there's so much more out there than I ever anticipated. So she's sort of feeling a bit bleak about the whole thing. And
overwhelmed, as you can kind of understand.
Yeah. But she takes it. She's like, you know, she's a pretty hard nut to crack, Rose. Like, she as you said last week, she's really showing how strong she is as a person when up against the Nestine consciousness and the Autons. But now the sense of normality is thrown way off course. But
I think it's because this time it's kind of like, although last time it was on Earth and everything, like, I think, you know, everything was still kind of like her familiar. Surroundings were familiar. So like, even though she was in a completely unfamiliar situation, she's still on Earth. Whereas now she can see the Earth, but she's not on it. She knows that like everything has changed. Everyone's dead. Like, she's not, like, no wonder it threw her off. I mean, you know, that would shake anyone, I think. But yeah, you're just in this completely unfamiliar situation. You've got no idea what to do or where to go. But I mean, you know, can't say I blame her.
Yeah, it's true. And so there's this really lovely scene between one of the workers on Platform 1. So the steward is just this bloke who is blue. And then all of the sort of minions are blatantly children.
Played by kids.
Only partially painted blue because they're wearing these big helmets. And they communicate by sort of squeaking. Because when the Doctor's TARDIS is taken and put in a cupboard or something, one of them hands the Doctor's little note that's got this really strange typeface on it that you can still read in English, but he kind of goes as he passes him to it, and it's like, okay. But this woman comes in called Raffaello, who I knew the name of before she said it.
Literally, he sits there and I went, what's her name again? And he went, Raffaello. And then in the thing, Rose goes, what's her name? Raffaello. It's like, you're such a nerd.
I'm such a nerd. She's a plumber, basically, and she has to get Rose to give her permission to talk, and guests are allowed anywhere. So it's like, you don't see this kind of like, I don't know, oppressive class system, but it feels like there's this, because everyone's blue, it's like, are they meant to be a race that are born to be like servants, or to work in,
well, I don't know, because the steward
to work in service? Because I mean, the steward might be the head of the thing, but he's not the top. I mean,
he does go up
the
to
top of the food chain, because
the appearance of the repeated meme and go, but I'm just a steward. So
exactly, it's like he's very much below the guests at this party, because everything else is run automatically by the corporation, which is very very, very imaginative bosses. But there's this really lovely scene between Rose and Ruffalo where she's just talking about, like, she just asks her where she's from, which again I also knew was Crispallian.
Again, he literally said it at exactly the same time she did, Crispallian, and I was like, shut up.
I am cool, Amy. Leave me alone. And Ruffalo just goes off on one about how she's part of the, I can't even think of what it is she says about where she's from, like exactly where it is, and you know, it's not the Medusa Cascade, but it's like, oh, I'm from here and that and the other. It's kind of like that sort of style. And Rose is just there like, what? And she goes, oh, where are you from, miss? And she goes, I don't know.
It's like, yes, that planet down there, actually.
Down there. I came up on a space hopper. And Rose, I think she's still kind of freaked out by the whole thing. It's like, this is normal. This isn't like a joke. This isn't like... So I think she expects things to be different. I think that's the thing that I find fascinating about alien in real life, like alien civilization, because the idea that we're the only living things in the universe is just kind of dumb. I think it's if that were the case, I'd be amazed that we were the only living things. But the idea that society exists out there, and it'd be interesting to see as to whether society beyond our own solar system would be in the same sort of format we have things here.
It would be quite interesting. It's always something you just kind of have in the back of your mind, like, I wonder what else is out there. But
I mean, if there's anything that could make 2020 worse, is if aliens actually did show up this year.
Lol. To be honest, I think at this point everyone would just kind of look at the sky and go, yeah, it's about right.
Yeah.
Although,
I guess.
Fun fact, which I learnt from my mum's quiz round the other week, did you know it's illegal for aliens to land in the UK unless they have a licence?
You're kidding.
No, genuinely. Your face. I wish people could see your face right now.
Why? Are they gonna send out like Guinevere 1 and be like, right,
pre-approved licenses.
Just reply to this message. Just send a big old alien postcard down to Downing Street and we'll get to you. They're just hovering up in orbit waiting for the green light to come and land somewhere.
Your application has been delayed due to postage issues.
You get a text back from Boris like, yep, you can come and park in a Finchley tube station car park. That's our nearest spot. Go on. Jesus Christ, I didn't realise that.
But anyway...
I've completely lost my point now, Amy.
You were saying
way off.
About if aliens came and invaded the Earth in 2020...
I mean, before that, I kind of skewed up.
We were talking about the fact that everything was normal and Rose was a bit like put off.
Normality was there and it freaks Rose out. And then these little balls that the adherents to the repeated meme are giving out turn out to be these little spiders that go and screw things up. And Ruffalo, poor lass, is dragged into a vent and I'm assuming like poked to death by tiny little feet. Because we don't really know what the spiders did to her, or she got pulled through to a fan and got blended. I don't know.
Oh, lovely.
I mean, they can't go too dark. I mean, this is like pre-Watershed TV.
And yet she calls Rose a prostitute, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, that's kind of where we go back to. We go back to the big room where everyone is, and there's just a lot of discussion going on, and like, you know, all the aliens are milling about, and that's kind of what throws Rose off because they're all just chatting. And Rose is like, this is weird. Shouldn't they be doing, I don't know, alien stuff? And Jade, who is the tree that sort of the Doctor flirts with a little bit, gives him a scan and she's like, thank you. And the Doctor like passes it off like it's nothing. It's like, oh, she just took my picture with a weird like leafy iPad.
A leafy iPad.
I don't know what to call it.
iTwig.
An iTwig. And Rose starts chatting to Cassandra because she's like, right, I may as well go meet the locals, see what's going on. And Rose instantly just hates her.
I mean, wouldn't you look at her?
I mean, yeah, I think it's because like obviously Rose knows that with the gifts that she brought, it's like you're chatting rubbish here. You're so full of crap. Either you're like lying about your people to make them sound more interesting, or you're so far removed from human that this is genuinely how you saw things to be. It reminds me of what's his name? He's in Voyage of the Damned. He played Joe Bell in the not Resurrection of the Daleks, Revelation of the Daleks back in 1986, 1985.
Can't help you there. You know, I'm no
with
good
Colin
with actors'
Baker.
names.
But he's the Earthologist on the Titanic, and he talks about how like the turkey people are devoured at Christmas because it's a human tradition. And it's like that kind of twisted approach to humanity. So
kind
Rose
of like
just goes
Chinese whispers for Earth history.
yeah. So Rose goes all in with Cassandra, calls her a bitchy trampoline, and it's just like I'd rather die than look like you. And it's like, wow. Like, gee, I mean, yeah, I get it. Like it's almost like because Rose is like the only pure human there, it's almost like you're disrespecting my people by being so goddamn wrong. And subsequently, the adherents of the repeated beam take her out. They punch her in the face and lock her in a room,
which obviously makes sense when you know the end of the episode. But
exactly, yeah.
Spoilers.
And the steward's killed off by a spider who presses one button, and the sun filter descends and it kills him because the whole place shakes. Which the Doctor can tell, because as the Doctor does, can tell that's not a gravity spike or gravity pocket or whatever it was that the steward said to cover it up. He knows there's something up on this ship. So he and Jade wander off. They go through a little, what would it be, like a maintenance tunnel, I guess?
I suppose so.
And obviously Jade... Is it Jade or Jabe?
I think it's Jade, because it's like the flower. Is Jade a flower, if I got that right? Yes.
Is it Jade or Jabe? Oh, this is going to annoy me now. I've got the old Wikipedia page open.
Pretty sure it's Jade, because Jade
is... It's Jabe.
Jabe?
Jabe with a B. Jabe. Yeah, Jabe. That's her name.
Well, that's stupid.
It's an alien. God.
But Jade is a flower.
Yeah,
that would make much more sense.
Jabe is a tree.
Well,
so.
You're wrong.
Well, so... Obviously, Jabe took a little scan of the Doctor, and her leaf pad tells her what he is. And this is where we get that little extra sprinkle of backstory. Because when I first watched this back in 2005, all this whole I'm the last of the Time Lord stuff, and my race are dead, and so on and so forth. I'm so sorry that I know who you are. I thought that was stuff that happened in the old series. So when I went back and I watched, like, say Genesis of the Daleks has got Time Lords at the beginning, and like the Five Doctors, which takes place on Gallifrey in the Death Zone and stuff like that, I had just assumed that the Time Lords had always been dead throughout the entire series. Like,
me too.
The Time War was prior to Hartnell. Like, Hartnell's always been the last of the Time Lords, and that's just how it was. So to hear Jabe go on about it more so, telling the Doctor that she's sorry, and he's an impossible person. You see the Doctor tear up, and a single tear does drop down his cheek as she's talking to him, and she puts her hand on his arm, and he puts his hand on hers, and it's this sort of very touching moment that, as much as we see the Doctor as being very fun, but also very fiery, that closeness was kind of unexpected almost.
Kind of spoke to him, like, in a way that you don't really expect him to sort of be reachable. Like, you don't really expect somebody that he's just met to be able to kind of get through to him in a way that, like, Rose can't. Because, like, at this point, is it this point that him and Rose have already had the argument about who he is and where he's from? I think they've already had that, haven't they?
Yes, they have, because it's after Rose goes off to be alone.
Yeah, so they've already argued about the fact that, like, he's not told her anything, like, she's just run away with a stranger, like, who are you, where are you from, and he refuses to say anything, and then all of a sudden this stranger comes along, and I think what is so good about it is the fact that Jabe will, like, she takes that kind of wall down for him, because, like, but he doesn't want to say anything. Like, he's not ready to admit, like, I'm the last of the Time Lords. Like, he's not ready to have that conversation with Rose yet. And yet Jabe comes along and she sort of is like, I know who you are, I'm really sorry, like, you've been through all this stuff. But it takes that strain off of him actually saying it out loud, and it kind of is like, if someone else can, like, say that they're sorry for this, then maybe, like, you know, I'm not seen as a bad person for being the last one alive, or, like, you know, whatever. And I think that's done really, really cleverly, because then it kind of opens him up to actually thinking, like, maybe it's not such a bad thing to feel these things. And I think that's then later on what leads him to actually admitting to Rose, like, you know, Jabe kind of took that what's responsibility off of him, as to sort of be like, you know, this is what happened and that's okay.
It seems like once you open the door with the Doctor at this point in his life, then he'll open up, because looking back at that point, the idea that the Doctor doesn't really want to tell Rose who he is, it's obviously because he's ashamed about what happened. And if you look to The Night of the Doctor, which was Paul McGann's short episode prior to the 50th anniversary special in 2013, I think that's the first point in time where he realizes he should be ashamed. Not of what he does, because obviously he's not done it yet at that point, but ashamed of who he is, which is probably why Eccleston hid that away. You know, the phrase Time Lord is first mentioned in this episode by Jabe. Yeah. Before she unfortunately burns to pieces.
Whoopee.
Yay. And I think that's that first like instance of somebody talking to Eccleston's Doctor and talking about being a Time Lord. The fact that the first instance that happens wasn't negative. Obviously that's what loosens him up, basically. Yeah,
and I think I love that scene because he doesn't say a word throughout that entire like chunk when she starts talking and she says, I scanned you or whatever, like literally from that line all the way through until they get into the next room. He doesn't say a word, but he doesn't have to. And I think that's like when that single tear like drops, it's just kind of like, oh, you're killing me. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, so it's like for those people who are watching it new, like for the first time, they know that there's something mysterious. Obviously, you know, we said this last week. There's something about this guy that's different that we don't know yet. We're gonna hopefully find out about as the series goes on and as the whole show continues. But for those of us going back, we feel those tears so much more because we know. So if you're, obviously, like I said, if you're someone who's listening to this, who's doing your first ever watch through, you've got that stuff to look forward to. If you're rewatching this with us, then you know how that feels. So the steward is found dead in his office. Whoops, thank you, spiders. And everyone starts kind of freaking out. And typically Cassandra starts throwing accusations towards the face of Bo, because apparently the whole event was sponsored by him and so on and so forth. And obviously, you know, if you're the guiltiest, then you're the one who's going to be dishing out all the rubbish. And obviously the Doctor and Jabe have gone to have a look for to check the cooling, check the systems or whatever it is, because, you know, the gravity spike wasn't right. And eventually they go back to they just sort of head back to the main room where all the guests are. And at this point, things start going wrong. The sun filters start descending in a couple of rooms. No.
I know. So he goes to see the steward's room with all the little blue kids waiting outside, and they're all screwed. Like, him and Jabe come back from the thing. They go to see the steward's room, and then they're like, "Oh, what's happened? Like, the sun filter's descended." So then the Doctor sorts out that sun filter, and then he's like, "Oh, hang on, there's another one coming from another room," and then he runs off, and that's where he finds Rose.
That's it. Yeah, I sort of lost my business. Like, has Cassandra left yet? No, not yet. So, yeah, Rose is locked in a room that I think the Doctor and her first landed in or first came to.
It's a similar room, anyway.
It's a similar room, and the sun filter comes down, and obviously this is Cassandra trying to kill off Rose because
she's a bitchy trampoline.
Because Cassandra doesn't like Rose. Like, she's the last human. She can out Cassandra for being full of lies and whatever. So they try and kill her off, and then after the Doctor,
you say that, but it hasn't been
her.
revealed that that's Cassandra at this point. Technically,
it hasn't
at this
yet,
point,
no.
The assistants of the repeated beam have just locked her in a room, and we don't know why.
So the Doctor then eventually gets... when he's down in the venting room with Jabe, he gets hold of one of the spiders, thanks to one of her very lovely lianas that she's not supposed to show. And he's like, you know, go on, Jimbo, go home.
Jimbo,
and here is the repeated meme. It's like blatantly a bunch of robots who are being remote controlled, and lo and behold, it's Cassandra behind everything, because it's like, even when you're going back through this episode after already knowing how it ends, it's so painfully obvious that it's Cassandra. Like, you could look at that and think, if you're watching for the first time, it may be making her out deliberately to look like she's guilty, to make the twist even more interesting if it's not her. But it's like, yeah, it's kind of obvious it's her. That kind of plays onto the whole idea that it's a family show. They can't make it too like
Twisty,
like Agatha Christie style stuff. They have to make it at least understandable for like kids, because at the end of the day we were kids. Like we said, we were 9 when this aired. So we wouldn't have had a super duper grasp on like crime whodunit fiction. So Cassandra's behind it all. She's like, oh, it's all down to stock prices, and as soon as you're all dead, or I've got compensation and stocks in your rival companies, and I'm going to become even more rich. It costs a lot to be this flat, and so on and so forth. And the Doctor says, oh, after all this, after 5 billion years, it all comes down to money. It's still down to money. And obviously Rose is still stuck in that room because the Doctor couldn't get the door open. Like Rose is still stuck in that room. She doesn't see this all of this transpire. And Cassandra, against the rules, teleports away, and it's like, because it's like 3 minutes till Earth death, and she's like, bye. Spiders activate, they blow things up, the shields are down, everyone on the platform is going to die. Obviously, it's not Doctor Who without a big old threat. So Jabe and the Doctor run back to the old venting room, and they have to get to the reset switch, which, funnily enough, is on the other side of 3 gigantic fans that are now spinning at full blast because the whole place is heating up due to the fact the shields are down.
Sort of reminds you a little bit of kind of Takeshi's Castle style obstacle course.
We should dub Craig Charles over that sequence just to see what it would sound like. Take some of his best. We'll have to do. I'm trying to think of what challenge would you take like Craig Charles's dialogue from?
Well, you could do the high rollers, because they were like, there was a lot of going between them and like falling down the middle, and
I'd say like maybe knock because they have to go through the right door to get through the right gap to do that. If someone could do that, that'd be hilarious.
Oh my god.
So the Doctor figures out this big old switch can slow down the fans, because
course.
Why not? Like, this is probably the weakest part of the episode, this sort of the reasoning behind there's just a big reset switch. It's like, cool.
And also, why is it there? Like, if you need to reset something, why are you making it difficult?
Why would you put it across a catwalk with 3 giant fans
why
that would very much chop somebody
death?
up if they didn't have their timing right? And it's like, it's just weird.
Cash.
But so Jabe holds down this thing, and the Doctor's like, the heat's gonna burn. You're made of wood. You're gonna burn. You're a tree. So. But she's like, no, don't stop wasting time, Time Lord. So that's the first time you hear that said in the new series, the word Time Lord. We don't know about Gallifrey. I don't even know, does Eccleston even say Gallifrey?
I have no idea. He might do in a future episode, but he doesn't.
Well, that's something I need to look on this rewatch. I have to keep an eye out for, because I don't really remember whether he does, which would be really sad if he doesn't. But anyway, so the Doctor makes his way past these 3 big fans, and by the time he gets past the second one, Jabe catches fire and she burns. And she falls to the ground. It's quite comedic. Even the sound effect is like a really cheesy fire sound effect.
Kind of explosion noise.
You only see it on her forearms, and then you just see the Doctor look back to this glowing blur behind him. And this point is actually one of my favourite parts of this entire episode, is when the fan ahead of him is spinning so fast, and he's like, he tries his best to like get past it, and he can't time it right. The Earth is about to explode. It's like 10 seconds away from exploding, because tension and all that sort of thing. Rose is in her room still. The glass is breaking. The sunlight coming in. It's the same happening in the guest suite. The Mox of Balhoun has just been fried. Poor blue boy. And the Doctor closes his eyes, and you get like the Ninth Doctor's theme.
Oh, I'm
pretty certain it's the Ninth Doctor. Pretty certain it's the Ninth Doctor's theme, but obviously it's used all through. It's even used in Capaldi to Jodie Whittaker's regeneration scene. I love that piece of music. And he closes his eyes, and this is the point when I first saw the Doctor as the superhero, kind
of otherworldly.
Yeah,
does some kind of Jedi mind trick.
It is a bit. He closes his eyes, and he can just tell when he needs to take a step forward, and he walks through this fan spinning at goodness knows how fast. He flicks the switch, and all the glass repairs itself, and the shields go up just in time for the world to explode. Yay. It's like, it's a bit of everything's gonna die. There's a timer and a big button. Like, it's quite. The setup's really interesting, but the
payoff
sort of
is.
The means of defeating the villain of the day is a bit bleak, but at the end of the day, it's episode 2 of a new series.
However, what I do enjoy is the fact that, like, he doesn't just kind of leave it there. It's not just like we've solved the problem, everybody go home. He then has to go that one step further, which
he does, yeah.
I quite enjoyed.
So, and this kind of loops back to something that's said right at the beginning when the Doctor's looking over the Earth with Rose before they go and see the steward, and he's saying, or Rose is saying, he explains that it's the classic Earth. The National Trust shifted the continents back. The planet's empty. The money's run out, so they're gonna let it go. And Rose says, like, so is this what you do? You swoop in at the last minute and you save it. And he goes, no, the time's up. That's it. There's the end. It's the end. And
everything has its time.
There are a couple of times in Doctor Who in the new series where the Doctor says, this is when this person dies. And there is one point that is defied, and that actually becomes quite an important point in the Doctor's life, but that's something we'll get to in Series 4 and then Series 8, so quite a way away.
Yeah.
So, the Doctor brings Cassandra back because he realises that through teleporting through heat's going to need a relay or a booster.
Goes through this amazing kind of almost Sherlocky moment where it's like, I'm very clever, and if I'm very clever, I can work out that this, and this, and it's like,
idea
boom,
1, idea 2, blah, 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 blah.
Have it.
Seeing the Doctor's mind work like this is fantastic. Like, you kind of see it a bit in Rose when he's like plugging their head into the TARDIS at Mickey's plastic head and stuff like that, but this is him, as you say, it's a proper Sherlock-esque.
It kind of is.
I'm angry, I'm determined to get the person who's tried to kill or has killed people. So, there's the ostrich egg that's got the teleport relay in it, and lo and behold, it's Cassandra, as we already know, she's outed herself as being the person who's behind it all. And she comes back, it's only her that comes back, no friendos with her to moisturise, and, the Doctor says, I've got you, whatever. She's trying to make excuses, and
you've passed my little test.
Now you can join the human club.
Human club.
And the Doctor's like, what is it he's sort of saying? Because obviously Cassandra's just sort of mouthing off on things, and then the Doctor says,
she's essentially going, you wouldn't get your lawyers on me because your definition of like people would keep them busy for like thousands of years and blah blah blah, and then she's all like, so you take me to court and you watch me smile and laugh and blah, and then he's like, and
that's
creak.
It. And this is quite a morbid scene. Like, the blood is never a thing that happens in Doctor Who. You don't see people get torn to shreds like you did in Torchwood. Even people being shot, like when you see Jenny be shot in Series 4, it's like you don't see any blood or any gunshot thing. You don't see like the puff of smoke and the tearing of clothes. It's just so safe for work.
Yeah.
And then you see Cassandra, who's just skin, lips, and 2 eyeballs. And she creaks, Zoe want to make her screaming, I'm too young! And then she like tears apart, and it's like, it is bloody, or it is almost bloody because it's like skin, but when she tears apart, it goes very red, and it's like, I remember watching that because I was never good with gore,
me either.
Anything like that. I'm still not that. I'm not that good with it. I don't understand like the want or the entertainment from like pornography films. So seeing this as a kid, 9 years old, seeing this weird flat woman be torn to shreds,
lovely.
I thought it was gross. Like, it was pushing it. And there are multiple moments during that episode that are pushing it, like Jabe asking if Rose is a prostitute, because she says wife, partner, whatever, and then prostitute, and Rose is like, bitch, please.
I'm still here.
I'm not a prostitute.
And
Come on.
then she goes, I'm going to go over and chat to Michael Jackson. It's like, ooh,
which is not.
Ooh.
It's that like that Russell T Davies sort of adult nature coming back through. Interestingly, I saw something on I think it was Reddit last night, of people are talking about showrunners and who should take over the show, and somebody said that Charlie Brooker should take over Doctor Who, because apparently he was asked a while ago to write an episode of Doctor Who, and I'm just like, do you know what? I could get behind that. And somebody in the comments said, but he's only ever done adult stuff. So how is that going to translate well to Doctor Who? And it's like, well, you look at someone like Russell T Davies, who's done, LGBT stuff in TV. He's done a lot of like more adult stuff in the past. This is his first foray into doing stuff with an audience broader than just adults.
Yeah.
And, he did it really well. He managed to cater for everyone. And it's as we said in the first episode, if you are watching this series for the first time, there's so much brilliant humor that would go completely past the kids.
Yeah.
Like in Rose, when the doctor's talking about all the plastics and things, and Rose says the breast implants. Like, you're a kid, you wouldn't get that. Now you would. It's just that brilliant broadness to it, and making a Michael Jackson joke because Cassandra is pale and stretchy faced and stuff, and it's like, ooh, that's
pushing it a little bit.
That's very much a 2005 joke, and even then that was still pushing it. So
funny though.
It's funny. It's so funny. They managed to squeeze these really quite dark moments of humor in, and we see it all through this series, and it's always great to look forward to. There are more moments in this episode that made me laugh than I remember.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's a really good first part to going into the future, because we go to the future quite a bit,
fair amount
in this series. I think it's relatively balanced. The only thing is, obviously, there's no planets in series 1.
Budget
only ever space stations. And yeah, like I said at the beginning of this, most of the budget is blown on these CGI shots, because you don't get as much like ridiculous CGI over the course of over the rest of this series. There are some really fantastic CGI moments that have aged incredibly well in the series to come. But End of the World has some shaky CG, like the exterior shots generally of Platform 1 are pretty good, but there are a few shots when you have there's the observation room where the Doctor and Rose are, and you can see in through the window, and it's very blatantly a flat texture with a window, like orangey window sheen on it, and when the camera moves, you can see that it's flat.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, this is like, it's not, I don't think they're called Millennium Effects. I think they're the people who do the physical effects and prosthetics and things. I can't remember what the production company who did the effects back, because they're basically the company who were hired to do the entirety of the Russell T Davies and Moffat era, did everything up until Chibnall, because it was DNEG who took over the CGI from then. And yeah, apparently most of the budget was blown on that, and there are some good CGI moments, there are some not so good ones. You mentioned when we were watching it about how when Eccleston puts the spider down to say go home to your boss, that he looks really blurry.
The whole kind of shot just like goes really blurred over when the CGI kind of comes into play, and it's like, okay.
And it's like, Doctor Who's never been known for having good CGI. It's again, as we've said, it's the charm of the series. There's always the sort of the jankiness of it, but the fact we're watching the most recent Blu-ray re-release of Series 1, which was back in 2017, the audio mixing is a bit rubbish, but the visuals are really nice. But seeing like that CGI at like full HD, it's a bit shaky.
It is what it is, though. You don't like sort of, it doesn't take away from the episode. So
no, not at all. Like, it's not so bad that it's not worth watching. But I don't think there's anything in Series 1 that's so bad it's not worth watching. There's going to be episodes we're going to get to in the future where we're looking at it going, oh no, I don't want to have to watch this.
Oh well.
But otherwise, it's really good. And after this is all blown over and Cassandra is killed, I mean, the thing is, Rose says to him, like, save her.
This is something I was going to mention, because this is one of the times when you get a very kind of different insight into the Doctor's morality, because we, like, I know that you've said it a lot in Ups and Downs about like the Doctor's morality being very flip-floppy during like Jodie's era, but you never really, with Tennant, it was always never kill, like, that was the kind of thing, like, don't kill anyone unless you can absolutely help it, like, whatever. Whereas this kind of, for me, is very Eccleston. It's like, no, she's killed people, she deserves to die. I'm not doing anything that nature isn't going to do anyway. Like, she should have died ages ago. Everything has its time. Tough. And I really like that about his character, because it's like, the Doctor's not perfect in this instance. Like, David's Doctor, obviously we'll get to that, but like, David's Doctor tries to be this kind of perfect hero, whereas Eccleston is very much like, no, I'm here, I'm real, like, she's a bitch, I'm done with her, sort of thing. And I really like that about his arrogant kind of character.
He's arrogant, but he's not dislikable.
No.
like there's so much about it's not so much that just because he can make a joke and do a little dance and it just like counters the fact that he can be so dark sometimes. There are moments we'll get to in the future of this particular series where you do see this again, and in fact it's questioned at one point as well. But yeah, he has this approach of I'm done with you, it's time to die. And I know that there is a point when that's echoed by Rose later in the series, and I'm pretty certain it happens again in a future series. I can't pinpoint exactly when, but I know that kind of debate of, no, I'm not saving it.
Yeah.
This is
I think it's a very Tennant thing, because it might be a Matt Smith thing, but I'm pretty sure that after Tennant is when we get, or during Tennant is when we get the idea of fixed point in space and time, and like certain things cannot be unwritten and rewritten and things like that. So yeah, the Doctor and Rose go back to Earth because, Rose is still a bit shaken by this whole thing. She's had, obviously, a lot thrown on her plate with, meeting all these aliens and then, nearly dying twice. So they go back to Earth and they're looking at people. A busy street, which we haven't seen in months. And the Doctor talks about how, you think it'll all exist forever, people, cars and concrete, but it doesn't. It just doesn't. And interestingly, it's a really bleak ending. Yeah. Apart from the way that they move things on to chips, which is always a good thing. I love that. Can you spell chips?
I want chips. I'm buying.
I always want chips.
I mean, yeah. They just come back to this really bleak message of, this is all going to end one day. But then the kind of the beauty of it that they don't really have to go on about, they don't have to spoon feed it, is this, this is 5 billion years in the future. Obviously, it's not exactly known when the sun will expand, because obviously that is a genuine thing that will happen. The sun will expand and the Earth will be eaten up, but we'll be long dead before that happens. So it is kind of like a very indirect. It's not so much that you don't have to worry about it, but you should make the most of your life because you've seen a future, be it fictional, but you've seen a future where you're not here. Every time the Doctor goes into the future, you're not there. But also, unless he goes a little bit into the future. What is so? I think you sort of look at it and you think, oh, this is a really bleak, message. Why is he bringing Rose back to the present? You think he's going to bring Rose back to the present and be like, see, everything's fine, you don't have to worry about this. But actually what it does is that opens the gate to him to then sort of be like, that happened to my planet. What you've just seen is what happened. Not necessarily, not exactly his sun didn't expand or whatever, but, my planet burnt, my planet did this. And that is the first time the Doctor opens up to Rose. And I think it's that kind of lead in of you think it's all going to last forever and it doesn't. And I've had to deal with that. I've had to deal with losing every single one of my people, my family, my friends, everything that I knew is gone. And so, you think it's going to last forever, but it's not. And I think that's really brilliantly done because you sort of sat there going, God, this is bleak. Oh, there's a reason it's bleak. Oh no, sad. Yeah, he leads her in by literally it's quite a heavy way to go. It's I'm going to lead you into the idea that my planet burned and was destroyed in this war, that you'll be spoon fed a bit more as the time goes on. But I'm gonna get you onto that train by making you watch your planet burn. Have fun. Yeah, it is a bit the Doctor at the beginning he is that's a bit boring, isn't it? Should we do something really I know exactly where to take you? And he's properly throwing her in the deep end because I think even he can see the strength that she's had. He's had so many companions in the classic series that have been, so almost in denial about things sometimes. And we see it with characters in he's seen Mickey in the first episode, and he's properly freaking out about things, and he sees how strong Rose is, and he's okay, I'm gonna properly put it to the test here. Whereas in the next episode, he's actually taking us somewhere to go and see the past, to go and see some fun, and obviously they're the Doctor and the companion. Trouble they're going to get follows him around. Yeah, exactly. As constant companion of death. Yeah. One thing we didn't mention is this. And trying to be as spoiler-free as possible if anybody hasn't seen Doctor Who, but this is the first episode where you hear the mention of Bad Wolf. That's very true, and I don't really think I remember hearing that before, because when Bad Wolf is talked about later in the series, this point is not actually shown.
Brought up, no. But then I thought it's because it's such a little tiny Easter egg of audio. Like, you just kind of happen, as the shot is panning across the main room while everybody's just chatting, you just hear the Mox of Balhoun say something like, "Oh, bad wolf," and that's literally
it's a bad wolf scenario.
Yeah, it's just tiny, and you just kind of catch it. And I literally turned to you and I was like, oh, "Bad wolf."
Genuinely, I'd never heard that before. I've never noticed that.
Oh.
So the fact that we're going back through it after 15 years and we're still finding things about these episodes that I know like back to front, it's incredible. And that's why, like, we love this show so much, and there's the reason why we love series 1 so much, and there's a reason why I love Eccleston so much. Like, just his era is borderline perfect in my opinion. But yeah, so the Bad Wolf stuff had been mentioned, which again will be something we'll get to through the course of the series. No spoilers if you are listening to this with your first ever watch through of Doctor Who.
But just keep an eye out. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, keep an eye and ear out. It's more of an ear out for now. But yeah, so you know, the Doctor's on Earth. He's told Rose about this war and about how all of his people are dead. They died. They burned. It was a war against who? Not going to say, but we lost. And that's the Doctor covering, which is something that we'll get to. It's something that fuels the character. Like, you'll have so much more respect and understanding of Eccleston's Doctor once you get past I don't know when it is exactly that it's more revealed as to what happened. It's before the Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary special, but I know that it's at some point it's explained more as to what really happened.
Well, I think some of it comes out during Dalek, the 6th episode, doesn't it? Because he does it.
It does a bit, and he talks more about the war.
Yeah.
But I don't recall exactly when he talks about what he did.
I think it might be a bit of a tenancy kind of.
I want to say it's like a tenancy way, or maybe even Matt Smith. I don't really remember, but it's something that. Actually, no, it's definitely before Matt Smith, because there's an episode in series 6 where he sort of makes half a joke about it. So it's definitely before series 6. I know that much. And I only know that because I had to dip into that episode to get some screenshots for an article. But it's definitely before that point. So there's a lot more to this war thing if you're completely new to this that's definitely coming your way. So there's already, the more seeds have been planted for sort of getting more stuff over to you as to what happened in this hiatus between 1996 and now, because it does happen between Paul McGann's 8th Doctor and Eccleston's 9th Doctor. Is definitively there that this whole war happens, and you will get to see it, and you will hear more about it as the series continues, but that's not for another
God knows how long yet.
8 years after the show came back that we got the final answers.
When was
to
it?
what happened.
2014?
2013.
Oh yeah, like really late 2013.
50th anniversary is November 23rd, 2013. Yeah, for Day of the Doctor. So there's a lot to look forward to. Speaking of things to look forward to, next week it's the episode 3, The Unquiet Dead.
Good episode.
Which is a very good episode. It's sort of one I kind of forget about when I think about series 1. It's kind of just sort of there.
I suppose it's kind of like one of these. It's like a more fun episode. Like, there's nothing particularly weighty that happens. It's just kind of like they get into trouble, they leave again. Like, there's nothing sort of.
That's like a really, really like a gross generalization of it.
I mean, obviously
you are right. Like, yeah, I mean that boils down to every episode of Doctor Who. But I mean, we're going to the past and we're going to see Charles Dickens and some weird ghosts, and that's based on just the Next Time trailer. But that's something you'll have to wait for next week to watch and or listen to. That is if you're watching it weekly and waiting for the podcast. I know that I restarted my Scrubs rewatch after the Fake Doctors Real Friends podcast started, and they must be, I don't know how far through they are, episode 1, and I've nearly finished series 8 of my rewatch, so I've not really been keeping up with it properly. But if you are rewatching this or you're watching this for the first time, please let us know on social media. You can tweet using the hashtag Escaping Kasterborous, because we've had people do that already, so we'll make that a thing. Hashtag Escaping Kasterborous.
If you can
it's a bit
spell
of a mouthful.
Because I struggle to spell it.
With whatever platform you're whatever platform you're watching and or listening on. You can see it right there in the title, so you can do that. Hashtag Escaping Kasterborous. You can even find me personally on Twitter at PickupChangeToe, and you can find Amy
at Ames_Elizabeth.
Indeedy doodly. Thank you all very much for listening today. Hopefully this all sounds a bit better. We changed up how we're recording this to make sure it's not as weirdly echoey.
Yeah,
it didn't really
apologies about that.
record as nicely as I just assumed it would work, but I'm wrong.
No.
Apparently, I was completely wrong. So hopefully this will sound a bit better than last week. But thank you all very much for listening. Again, all of the comments and messages we've had over the last week since we've released the first part has been so brilliant, and we hugely appreciate that. Thank you for all the comments on the video version if you are watching this on the WhoCulture YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.